Hey everyone, welcome to this lunar eclipse sidereal astrology forecast for the lunar eclipse on Wednesday, May 26, 2021. All right, so we have an eclipse in Scorpio. If you were expecting me to say Sagittarius just then, be sure to check out that link down below. We are using the visible sky, which is different from mainstream astrology, and so the signs are different. All right, but Scorpio and a south node lunar eclipse. So a great time of now doing a status check. How is the Scorpio side of ourselves? The Scorpio side is the one that is connected to the deeper dimensions of life, is candid, is real, is raw, is connected to the deeper dimensions. Now, of course, this also involves, connecting the deeper side of ourselves, reintegrating with all the sides of ourselves that maybe we've shunned away or hidden away or buried under the rug or the carpet. Then now we can lift up that carpet and start to reintegrate with these deeper, more raw, more real elements of ourselves and of life. So great to do a status check with this. This is a full moon. The lunar eclipses are like full moons, so it is a status check. It's saying how is this side of ourself going and how can we further implement it moving forward for the remainder of this cycle going into what will be the next eclipse in June. So this is a south node eclipse. There's not a whole lot to do with this. It's more yin energy. So I think around this Wednesday time period, it is very important to sort of sit with the energy. Eclipse is already very spiritual anyways. It's more about receiving and connecting, but especially South Node 1. So this, of course, favors meditation and just a bit of space in our life to really see what comes up out of this eclipse. And again, how we can reintegrate this energy now moving forward. All right, so with the eclipse, we do have some square with Jupiter, slight square with Jupiter, maybe some potentials or feeling a bit like there's opportunities to empower ourselves, which is good. There's a trine to Chiron, some supportive energy for healing. And of course, all these planets in Taurus is helping ground this deeper energy. So connecting to our inner and outer resources can be very grounding during this time as well. All right, so let's go and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we... Alrighty, so here is the chart for the lunar eclipse. As you can see here, we are using the uneven sizes of the constellations as you would see them in the visible sky. And so this does change the signs from a mainstream astrology. For example, they are saying it is in Sagittarius, but if you do look up at the visible sky or use one of these apps or planetarium softwares, you will of course see the lunar eclipse right in the middle of Scorpio, the Scorpion. So yeah, we'll dive deep into that. And if you are new to this channel, definitely check out that link down below for more information. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So the exact time of the eclipse will be at 07:18 Eastern time of the Americas on May 26th. So if you want to make that calculation for wherever you are in the world, then you'll know exactly when that happens. But for all intents and purposes, it will be around the Wednesday time period. And it being so strong, we usually feel it a few days before, a few days after. But especially that Wednesday time, it's so important to turn inward and have some space, maybe meditation, and sort of absorb this very important spiritual part of the year. And the reason it's important is because it does involve the nodes, right? And so astrologically, we view this as the karmic or life path parts of the chart. So the lunar eclipse is like a full moon in that it's illuminating and it's sort of helping us become more aware of things and how we can further develop the cycle, because it is the halfway part of the lunar cycle, which means that this awareness we gain will be good for the next 2 weeks, right, to finish up the cycle, but really in the yearly sense, right, with the eclipse cycles, really the next 6 months, or you could even say the next 12 months. So usually very important times of the year. And in this case, illuminating what is Scorpio, the deeper dimensions of ourselves and of life. So that's a great way of working with Scorpio. Scorpio is that side of ourself that, again, is just really wants to connect to the truth, wants to connect to what's real, raw, and deep. It's a great time of doing things like research and uncovering things, but not just about life, but also maybe particularly, in fact, about ourselves, right? To really reconnect with that deeper side and maybe do some healing or some deep diving, and reintegrating and healing and accepting these deeper qualities that then, of course, helps us feel more transformed and more empowered. But of course, to do that, it requires a lot of facing fears, and it requires a lot of non-attachment. We have to be willing to allow for the death of things, right? To be non-attached to things in order to face fears and personally empower ourselves. So this is why it's so good to really get into that cave, into that deeper element of life, because they say that's where the treasure is, right? We always look at this symbolically, like in the West, where there's the cave and the dragon guarding it, right? Which could be signifies the dragon as that sort of ego, or that, very, dominant side of ourselves that we view as vicious or scary. We have to fight it and almost in a sense reintegrate with it. But there is that gold or treasure at the end of the tunnel. And so it's so good to dive deep and to not fight the dragon necessarily. I think that's a Western perspective, but to reintegrate with the ego, to reintegrate with the deeper dimensions of life, particularly the ones that we've hidden away or shunned away or exiled, that we said, no, that's vicious, or that's not right, or that's not, who I am. But these are, of course, parts of life, the real, raw, deeper stuff that once we at least become aware of and start to work with, then start to manifest more healthfully, right? These are, the more we suppress things and push things away, then the more unhealthy elements of these hidden aspects of ourself come out. But the more we accept and work with these deeper dimensions, then the healthy qualities of them come through. And, in this case, generally, this leads to more personal empowerment, more reintegration, more of a connection with our true self, our whole self, which is the full spectrum of life, the quote unquote good and the quote unquote bad, particularly the bad, again, the exiled, but to reintegrate with all of it. Become more holistic, become more healed, more empowered, more of our true self, more free, which is Scorpio. So great to do this kind of work, I think, interpersonally with personal development, but of course, externally, anything that is about uncovering depth and truth and maybe expressing that or whatever is great. But again, it's not so much a yang time. This is a yin time, especially with the South Node. So it is about being with the energy. It's not so much to do with this. I think maybe more of the doing will come once we get closer to the next eclipse, which will be a solar eclipse next to the North Node, which is more yang energy. But in this case, with the Scorpio, just sort of being with it, sitting with it, and see what arises. And then again, from this, maybe just noticing a bit of transformations and changes along the life journey as we reintegrate with that side of ourselves. But the question now is okay, where can you put the yang though? Because there always is both, and it's important to always implement both. And so the yang is on Taurus, especially because we have all the fast movers in Taurus, with the exception of Mars, but a lot of planets here in Taurus, which grounds Scorpio, right? So a great place to put intention is on developing the resourceful elements of life. So first of all, external resources. So it's good to connect with nature, beauty, aesthetics, comforts, stopping to smell the roses, right? This kind of a thing, connecting the abundances of life and nature. But internally, what helps also balance out this deeper Scorpio energy is connecting to our resourcefulness, right? Our inner resources, our self-efficacy, the belief in ourself, right? That's grounded, it's firm, it's steady, it's resourceful, and also the side that's self-reliant and has good self-value, self-worth, right? Because it's connecting to that natural essence of life. So of course, things like nature and relaxation and comforts can help us reconnect to that grounding side of ourselves. But of course, fundamentally, it is about that. It is about developing our inner resources and reconnecting to that earthy, natural side of ourselves. Because of course, we can't do any of the deep diving, we can't do the healing if it is not grounded in life. And a great example of this is the shaman, right? The shaman, the ancient healer, always very much connected to the deeper dimensions, doing all this healing work, but super connected to nature. Very much. In fact, there was a direct correlation between the more connected to nature the shaman was. So it's through the natural world that helps balance this out. Great, of course, for things like nutrition or holistic stuff, or, again, anything that reconnects with the natural world is great during this time. And this is a great place to put the yang energy with the North Node here. All right, so these are the most important components of the eclipse. We do have a slight square up to Jupiter. So it's nice to see Jupiter in aspect. Usually squares to Jupiter come across as quite benefic. So maybe seeing some potentials, right, surfacing, maybe in the context of the year, maybe about our future visions with Aquarius. But nonetheless, this can be this pendulum swing with beliefs and with perspectives. So if it's over optimistic, then it might swing to the under optimistic, or over hopeful, under hopeful. So it is good to see that there are opportunities, there are things to be hopeful about, there are some good things to build and implement for the year. But, to actually sort of ground it, right? Just understand we are under a bit of an influence, a bit of an over or under extreme with some of that expansion, some of that Jupiterian optimistic or adventurous side. And so by becoming aware of that side of ourselves, that side that, is open-minded and building that constructively, implementing that constructively, the side that is hopeful, and then being grounded with those hopes and ideals and future visions. I think this is a great way of working with the square. And it can be very constructive times with squares, especially with Jupiter. Great opportunities that can arise that, again, we can sort of ground and become more balanced with during the square. Now, there's a turn up to Chiron, which is very nice because, Chiron is that deeper energy as well. It rules Ophiuchus, where the south node just recently came from. And so this is all about healing. So nice supportive energy there for healing in Pisces, maybe more willingness to go with the flow, more receptive. But very supportive element to see there with that. And, especially from anything that's, came out of your life since December, this eclipse could be nice and supportive to help us make some shifts and changes with in this context of the deeper dimensions or the healing dimensions, which was the eclipse at that time, the last eclipse we had, which was in Ophiuchus at that time. All right, so I do want to mention that, of course, some of these dispositors or rulers of Scorpio, we have Pluto modernly, Pluto modernly and Mars traditionally. So looking at these can give us a little bit more insight. We do have Pluto in Sagittarius. So great to, again, be open-minded. That's Jupiter's sign. And to transform our beliefs, understand that our beliefs are going through a metamorphosis and transformation and have been for many years. But to recognize the power of beliefs and the power of perspective. And in fact, it could be through this philosophy, spirituality, expanding our mental and literal horizons in which a lot of this deep transformation can be occurring. Now, Mars is opposite this in practical Gemini. So Gemini is also about information in a sense that's about practical information. So reading a book, diving deep with information, maybe research, right, uncovering things, and maybe through communication as well, could also be a great way of healing and transforming with these placements. All right, everyone, so that is the eclipse in a nutshell. Again, 0718 Eastern Time of the Americas on Wednesday, May 26th. It is going to be in Scorpio, which is the Scorpion, which is all about the deeper aspects of life and reintegrating with those. It's a yin energy with the south node, which means it's more about releasing, resolving, and so it's so good to just sort of be with the energy and see what does get shifted or transformed with it. Grounding it with Taurus, the bull, which is the grounding elements of life, developing our inner and outer resources, can help balance and facilitate this deeper integration process. Good to be hopeful in a grounded way with squares to Jupiter. Great to expand our beliefs with Pluto and Sag, and great to dive deep into information and communication to facilitate some of that transformation with Mars in Gemini. All right, so everyone have a fantastic lunar eclipse. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click that like button if you're watching this on YouTube, and I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.